Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. I want to give double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone that rule well and teach well, and salutations to the hopeful elect that's out here pushing his truth in all honesty and sincerity. Shalom. This is the brother Yaramla coming at you with a quick video through the spirit, power, and mercy of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. Lord willing, to be edifying. And I want to title it, sudden destruction is coming, man. All right, sudden destruction is coming. All right, so this First Thessalonians chapter 5, starting at the top, verse 1, says, "But of the times and the seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you. For yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night." So we understand that the day of the Lord is coming as a thief in the night, and it's going to catch many people unawares, man. It's going to catch a lot of people off guard. But Lord willing, that's why we watch, stay on our watchtower to see what the Lord will reveal that's going to play out throughout the earth by the way of prophecy. All right, so we don't get caught off guard. So we'll be waiting, all right, when the Lord make his return, his grand entrance. Verse 3, for when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. So they ain't gonna be able to escape this hell that's coming, man. So the pride of this devil, all right, with this U.S./Israel versus Iran situation, all right, it's plain as day that they're getting help from other countries such as China and Russia. So this very well gonna play into bringing the third woe, the third destruction, all right, through thermonuclear missiles. All right. So Trump making all these lies saying, oh, we are good or everything okay. They're winning and destroying the Navy and all these different things. But they constantly, they setting up ceasefires and all these different things. All right. And they're not really reporting on the real death toll and certain things that's going on over there. You got to get your news, the real news, from alternative sites and things. All right. But when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction is going to come upon them. So they keep saying, oh, peace and safety, or they got a backup plan for all these different things. But they don't understand, well, they do know, but they're going to hide it from the people as long as they can, that the economy is collapsing as we speak. All right, the dollar is losing its value. And with that, this society going to collapse and sudden destruction going to fall upon this place. All right, verse 4, but ye brethren are not in darkness, that day should overtake you as a thief. All right, so we're not in darkness, man. We're not in gross darkness as the people, man. All right, these people is in gross darkness, man. All right, let me get this scripture. All right, it's Isaiah chapter 60. Verse 2, it says, for behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. All right, but the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. All right, so the Lord gonna glorify his men. The Lord gonna show that, shine his light on us, show that he's dealing with the elect. Lord willing, we be up that fold. But you people was covered in gross darkness, man. Let's see, gross darkness. All right, cloud, heavy, a dark cloud. Yeah, a dark cloud is over you people. Gloom. All right. So, they can hide it now because everything seemed to be normal. All right. We got sports and all these different things. They still in the house of feasting. All right, but they're going to be mourning real soon. All right, because, hey, they say in December they're going to do the auto draft. All right. Which I guess they're going to automatically be calling men up for the battle, for the war. All right, the auto initiate you in the draft, or automatically sign you up, however the case may be. I'm not too sure how it worked. But, that show you that the third war is brewing. They might push it up to where, it'd be like this summer or this fall. They might not wait all the way to December, depending on how this thing go. All right, with Iran, Israel, and U.S. All right. But I also want to get a second edges real quick. All right. Second Esdras chapter 16. All right, start at verse 31. It says, even so in those days there shall be 3 or 4 left by them that search their houses with the sword. And the earth shall be laid waste, and the fields thereof shall wax old, and her ways and all her paths shall grow full of thorns, because no man shall travel therethrough. So you see, it's less farmers. So farmers that we do have, the farmers that we do have, are struggling. All right, so that's why they're trying to do away with that and try to bring in this impossible meat, this 3D printed food, all this fake food, because they see where the economy and everything is leading to. All right, it's a technological revolution we're heading to. All right, they even got to where they can replace, basically, what you call them, construction workers. People that build these houses. They can make 3D printed houses, 3D printed apartments, and all this shit, man. So they think they got an answer for everything, and this war gonna be a main thing that's gonna dwindle, mainly the men in these lands. All right, because without men, it's gonna be a lack of infrastructure and a lack of, a lack of a lot of things, man. All right, so it's saying that the earth gonna be laid waste, or the fields thereof shall wax old. All right, gonna be no one to tend to home. All right, just like in World War II, the men went to war and the women had to fill up a lot of these workplace jobs. All right, so it's gonna be no man to till the field. All right, it says full of thorns. Say they ain't even gonna probably drive like men that do landscaping, or men that weed eat, make sure, the thorns and weeds don't overtake certain places. Because without them doing that, you'll see all kind of weeds and stuff growing out of the cracks of the concrete, all right, and sidewalks. All right, go to the main verse I wanted right here, verse 33. It says, the virgins shall mourn, having no bridegrooms. The women shall mourn, having no husbands. Their daughters shall mourn, having no helpers. All right, so these women gonna be mourning, all right, because their husbands and boyfriends gonna be sent out to the war. All right, they're gonna have no bridegrooms. All right, so a lot of these young men, it's men of all ages, 18 to 40 something, or they can push it up to 50 something. So it's gonna be a lot of men that's gonna be drafted to this war, or a lot of the average regular people out here. All right, the whole world is gearing up for war. All right, verse 34 said, in the war shall their bridegrooms be destroyed, and their husbands shall perish of famine. So not only is it going to be a war that's going to destroy a portion of men, but also the famines in the land, man. So yeah, man. So the time is near. The time is here, man. All right, the time is near. The time is here. All right, with the Lord. The Lord is going to bring judgments on the earth. All right, so those that don't perish by the sword is going to die by the famine, man, or pestilence, or the destruction of the Lord, man. So the time is here, man. So we see it playing out before our very eyes, man. So a sudden destruction is about to befall the world, but mainly Babylon the Great and various other places around the world. So the day of the Lord is coming. All right, so with that being said, I hope this is edifying and exhorting. With that being said, Shalom.